next speaker is Dr. Jim Doyle's biology student, Ms. Iman Lababidi. She will be presenting on the history of human evolution.
Hello everyone, my name is Iman Lababidi and I will be presenting the history of human evolution. First off, I'd like to thank Dr. James Doyle for mentoring me through all of my research. Everyone in this room are of the species Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. Our species was named by Carl Linnaeus, which is what the L stands for. Are there others in the genus Homo? Are there other Homo relatives that are extinct? And who are our closest living relatives? I will be going over who we are as a species, the hominid tribe that we belong to, distinguishing features between genera, excavation techniques and discovery, Australopithecus, one of our ancient relatives, and then 6 species of Homo that scientists are accepted by scientists today. Many existed before our species existed, and many existed during as well. Our closest living relatives are chimps and bonobos, and you can see where that red dot is. It is where the split of our species, or our direct relatives, and chimpanzees split off. And we are just as close to chimps as gorillas are to chimps as well within our DNA. We are part of the primates and most related to chimps and African apes. So past Homo species existed and were separated by time of existence, origin, body characteristics, but most of all DNA. This is a couple of the reconstructions of certain different species in our ancient relatives. And you can see how the bodies have evolved. Hominy is one of our more inclusive classifications that we belong to. Australopithecus is the human ancestor, and Pan is the ancestor of chimps. And you can see the split between the two under hominids on the left there. The determining factor that split the two genera is bipedalism, where Pan and chimpanzees are non-bipedal, and Australopithecus, our ancient ancestor, is bipedal. Bipedal means for one to walk on 2 feet as opposed to 4 feet. Another determining factor between these species is brain size. As you can see, on the x-axis is time, on the y-axis is time, and then the x-axis is the size of the brain. So our brains have evolved throughout time, where chimpanzees have had a brain of about 300 cubic centimeters. Australopithecus, our ancient ancestor to the Homo species, has a brain size of about 600 cubic centimeters, and then modern humans, Homo sapiens, have a brain size of about 1,300 cubic centimeters. And so brains don't fossilize, but skulls do. So our determination of the brain size has been based on the cranial volume capacity of the skulls. There has been many excavation techniques with years of research and that have determined our evolution and our very existence. And we continue to discover fossils and skeletons. One of the excavation techniques is isotope dating. Maybe you've heard of carbon-14 dating, which is very efficient, but it only allows us to date back fossils 75,000 years ago or less because of its shorter half-life. But another isotope that we use is potassium-40, which has a half-life of 1.25 billion years. So it allows us to date fossils back much farther. Another excavation technique is stratigraphy, which is where fossils in the more shallow sediment are younger, and then the fossils in deeper sediment are older. And again, we are continuing to discover new species and fossils every day. Distinguishing characteristics of our ancient relatives. So Australopithecus is Lucy's genus. You might have heard of her. So she is Australopithecus afarensis, and also the Australopithecus genus existed 6 to 5 million years ago and originated in Africa, more specifically Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. They have more human and ape features, as you can see, the flatter nose and the projecting jaw. Some cranial features of Lucy's species are shown here. They have a more ape-sized brain. It's like 35% of the modern brain. Over 400 fossils of Australopithecus have been found in different parts of Africa. And the P there stands for Pananthropus, which is a closer relative to Australopithecus, but it shows some of the sites that they have been discovered. So those of Australopithecus had very long, strong arms with curved fingers adapted for climbing trees, and they adapted for millions of years with different climates and environments. So you can see as there was evolution within the genera as well, with body changes. One of the most primitive species of the Homo genus that came after Australopithecus is Homo habilis, which Homo habilis means handyman in Latin, and that's because they were the first to use tools of our relatives. They were discovered in South Africa and Tanzania. You can see the site there. And they have smaller bodies with long arms and longer legs. This is a reconstruction of the face that scientists believe that they look like. They have a more protruding jaw, and they also use stone tools. And this is a picture of some of the tools that scientists have discovered. This information is only based on just over 10 fossils because that's all we've discovered of their species so far. So it's limited data, but it allows us to predict the appearance of them and the life that they lived. Next is Homo erectus, which many of you may have heard of. This Homo erectus stands for upright man. So that is because they were the first ones to have a complete upright traveling position of the species before them. They have less prominent cheekbones and a more protrusive face, as you can see in the reconstruction there. So because they had a more upright traveling position, they were able to migrate farther than the relatives before them. And sites of their fossils have been discovered in Africa, Europe, and Asia. And this shows a couple of the specific sites. So this is a picture or a reconstruction of their brain and what we have discovered of their skulls. So Homo erectus used complex tools, they used fire to cook, and they cared for weak companions. And there's also, if you see that yellow dot, it shows an area for speak recognition. So it's also estimated that they had their own form of communication between their species as well. So they also survived. They survived about 2 million years. So they have one of the longest existences in our human, in our most direct history. And this shows their bipedal, complete upright position. Homo heidelbergensis is one of the next in our evolution. And they survive very cold climates. They have wider bodies for an adaptation to the climate. And then they were also the first to build their own shelter and bury the dead. And this is a reconstruction of what scientists believe their faces would have looked like. Thousands of fossils have been discovered of Homo heidelbergensis, and they were discovered in Africa and Europe. The pink highlighted zones are where sites of discovery were. And so they existed about 800 to 100,000 years ago. And as you can see on this little graph, it shows that many believe that Homo heidelbergensis is the direct ancestor of Homo sapiens, which is modern humans. They had a similar sized brain to us, or cranial volume, with about only 100 cubic centimeters smaller than modern humans, our brains. And this is a couple distinguishing features that they had that are different than ours. Homo denisova is a species that existed alongside us. They have larger, robust bone structures, and they also created stone tools. And this is a reconstruction of what scientists believe that their faces look like. We have a low fossil record of Homo denisova due to only one original site, which was the Denisova cave, and then there are other sites that have been recently found, but they're still being validated. So this shows one of the teeth that were found, and then some of the excavation areas that we found their fossils. Although there's a low fossil record, evidence of them exists within our DNA. This shows some migration routes of Homo sapiens, as well as the Denisova or Homo denisova and the Homo neanderthals, which I'll talk about next. So the purple triangles are areas of where it's believed that we had interbreeding between the Homo sapiens and their species, and then the pink circles are the areas where it's believed that we had interbreeding between us and Homo neanderthals. So it's also, we have these areas where they found fossils of both species alongside each other, so that's an estimation, as well as DNA between us and the Homo denisovans are 0.02 different, so that's extremely similar. And it shows the migration routes as well. So Homo neanderthalensis, we also had an overlap in time and origin with them as Homo sapiens. They existed through extremely cold climates. They had robust bodies and shorter limbs to accommodate for those colder climates. And then they also made and wore clothing, controlled fires, and had the capacity to plan ahead and think in abstract ways. So intelligence was growing through our evolution. So there was overlap of existence between Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis. So it's estimated that there was interbreeding between them and us as well, with our DNA 0.01 different than their DNA, which is even more similar than those of Homo denisova. So this shows two different time periods of possible interbreeding and interaction between these species, being us and the Neanderthals. So Homo sapiens began about 300,000 years ago in Africa and are now worldwide. They are the result of many species evolving over time. And then although I only mentioned about 7 of our ancient relatives, hundreds before us existed and many will exist after us. And you can't really see, but so there's our chimp relatives going into Australopithecus, and then like Homo erectus and the Neanderthal, and then at the end is modern man, which is us. Through evolution within our genes, our species will continue to evolve and adapt to new pressures to survive. And just like we do, evolved species that live after us may discover our remains and see them as evidence of our evolution. Are there any questions?
What are the defining characteristics of the Homo genus? Besides
brain size, and then also it's within our DNA as well.
Are there
And
specific genes that they were looking for?
there are, but that is out of my realm of research, so I'm not sure of them. But yes, there are. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.